So then on to the show. I'm Avery Schrader. This is a show that I started, and there's some talk, a little announcement about the show itself after, closer to the end. Firstly, thank you to Lift99, as always, for providing the space and doing the thing. Thank you to Veriff, who you might hear a little bit about today, for sending Kaarel. We had to convince them that he could spend the time here and not, growing a business. But finally, thank you to these guys, which you are hopefully drinking right now. Olli something Estonian that I can't pronounce, unfortunately. Ollinaut. Ollinaut? It's actually quite good.
It's Ollinaut.
Ollinaut. So there you go. Thank you to those guys. They were kind enough to hook us up with refreshments this evening. For those of you who don't know this guy, this is Kaarel Kotkas, the 23-year-old founder of Veriff, which is a company that started from not getting a job and suddenly breaking the record at the Ycombinator demo day for the most investor interest, if I understand correctly. Veriff is a identity solution for online verification, hence the name Veriff. And I think it's much more than that too, in a way, after kind of having you explain it to me more thoroughly, the kind of mission and what I've seen that this technology is capable of. It's something more than just a startup, I think, and that's really cool to me. So I want to start with letting you intro Veriff and kind of explain what it is, because you've done it once or twice more than I have.
I agree. So let's start with the one-liner. Every startup founder has all those things, and they know it by heart. So Veriff is strive for online identity verification. We allow any website and mobile application to verify driver's license, passport, and government-issued ID. So that's the one-liner part. But what we do actually is we use device's camera and microphone to make sure that the person is really who they claim to be. So they have to show their face, their ID, and we just match them. And what we noticed, it's always what makes Veriff unique is that we were the first ones to understand that pictures never do them justice. You have to just analyze a lot more information, and it's all about building up trust online. Mm-hmm. And taking one step after another will lead to secure ID verification.
So I think for a lot of people, secure ID verification sounds like interesting technology, maybe. What kind of made Veriff something more special to me is some of the use cases, and I was wondering if you would kind of walk us through what Veriff might mean for your end client, and then also the end user. What does it allow your client to do first, maybe?
Yes, I think the first thing what we started with banks. And we were able to change the way of people think of banking. So you don't have to go to bank anymore, bank comes to you. Mostly what we understood that those bank branches and offices around the country have only one purpose, to verify those people face to face. But you don't need to do it, and actually you can do it even more secure online. I think it's Avery. We look like you're like a, yeah, we could test it out, and I think with your idea I could get to a nightclub for sure, but actually I can get it already.
Yeah,
but
you can get back into high school.
Even though like last time when I bought one Red Bull from Rimi, they asked my ID, and this made me feel bad. But maybe in the future it's good. But yeah, the idea behind it is like we can actually do very, very secure verification online.
Yeah.
So there's no need for those offices online. So the old economy will understand that they can provide those services location independently. Mm-hmm. And in the banking sector, we noticed that if somebody is applying for €2,000 loan, mm-hmm. then if we see that there's a fraudulent case, then we've saved up €2,000 honest people and companies' money. Mm-hmm. But now there's so many marketplaces that are all built upon trust. Mm-hmm. And if somebody would like to hire a nanny for their children from one marketplace, for example, care.com, then the need for secure ID verification is even higher. So there's no price tag on it. And those marketplaces have such high self-regulatory requirements to fulfill. And this is why Veriff is very welcome there. And we are working with them quite closely.
So it's again like, I see that there's more to Veriff than saving people money. After you showing me the use cases, and I think you probably can't tell an exact story of what happens, but maybe you could give a hypothetical example of a case where somebody tries to fraudulently do something with their account.
Yes, I think in our job it's very important to be on every single day one step ahead of fraudsters and competition.
Mm-hmm.
And what we've noticed that many fraudsters, they don't read the terms and conditions. Like, no, we either. I mean, like, there's so many cases now where people are really trying to get through our system and doing many crazy things. And we were surprised that even in Estonia, where we have very strong like ID cards, mobile ID, there's still a market for us. And despite those things that we noticed, sometimes like PIN codes and ID cards are easy to work around. And there are like some fraudulent cases where somebody with somebody else's ID card is behind a computer and then takes like pictures from Facebook and tries to show them in front of the camera from an iPad. and yeah, there's like many verifications taken from a sleeping person, and yeah, those are like in a way the funniest cases. But on the other side, you see that there are also the cases where elderly people has been used. So somebody's trying to take a loan on behalf of them, so they have no idea what's going on in the background, and our system enables us to make sure if the person is doing it voluntarily and understands about this whole process.
So that was what struck me with Veriff, was that it's more than facial recognition, it's more than just technology. It's that if somebody is willing to be malicious enough to take advantage of an elderly person who doesn't understand the technology they're using, Veriff protects that person. So in a use case where a grandma maybe wants to get her pension a little earlier than their grandson who needs an extra couple of €1,000, takes out a loan by using that as the alibi, just as an example.
Yeah, those things happen quite a lot. There's like so many different things going on.
Yeah.
And with higher volumes, we always see that there's so many different cases that in the early days we thought that the need for Veriff is not so big in a way, but it ended up as a quite essential part of every online business.
Yes. So now you know what Veriff is, if you didn't already. The next thing that was really cool to me was how Veriff all started, and how the process that you went through to get there. And I think it came from you working on some stuff at Transferwise, correct?
I was approached. I was doing many different projects, and when I was in the 12th grade, I was approached by Kairi, who is one of the recruiters, and said that, Kaarel, we've heard great things about you. Let's meet up and maybe we can find some ways of cooperation. And then I had awesome meetings with different great people at Transferwise, and we were talking like, Kaarel, what you'd like to do the most? And we went through different things, and I started working on a case study, which was to just test out verification services and systems.
So you kind of did the case study, you tested this out. How did you go? I mean, Transferwise is a very successful company. I'm sure you couldn't get through any of their verification processes.
I mean, yeah, there's no system that is bulletproof. And it's always the question how you can make things in a way that the cost of fraud is unreasonably high. And yeah, I had all the tools to test everything out, and then I really found a passion. And it wasn't about Transferwise; it was all the service providers on the market in general that made me think that you just, while analyzing and taking things apart, you really have to understand that that you can put those things together in a different order, which will bring more value.
So we actually have this part of the project. The idea was maybe you would end up working for Transferwise, right?
Yeah, it was. I was really thinking of like working there in a way. It was a couple of months in the beginning. After school, I really was like excited. Oh, great! I can really start working on such an amazing for an amazing company, and really to see how everything will work out. And the people were great there, and when I asked different questions, and we were able to go deeper and deeper with this problem and topic in general, and then I just tested everything, like created 10-minute emails, super many fake accounts, and yeah, just great time there.
And how did they feel about you rummaging around in their systems in the end?
I mean, like, we were playing with the right, and we were.
I mean, your job was to break Transferwise.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't. It was just improve the user experience and security, and it wasn't only like Transferwise related at all. It was just testing different service providers on the market and finding the best fit and just asking for their experience and going further with it.
Okay, so Kaarel is a really kind dude, and he works really hard to make verification a great thing, or a really effective thing. And I think that in the process of doing that, you have to break some stuff. And so when Kaarel worked at Transferwise, in the end, it was quite. We have an email from Transferwise from afterwards. Can we show the email?
I mean, like, yeah, it was just a case study at the time,
Yeah.
and yeah, working on this project. But I asked Martin Sock whether we can show this email, and he said yes.
Okay, awesome. So we have permission. We were going to do it and ask for forgiveness, but now we have permission. Transferwise, we'll know if it's the right one pretty quick. And it was really interesting to me the way they worded the email, because it starts out, they're really polite and they say you're a great dude, awesome to work with, but it starts out with, we'll send somebody to clean up your mess. And and it's quite fun, I think. Let's see if we can get it. Does it work? So it says, Mary-Elise will take care of the mess you made and unlock and figure out how to fix all of this. And then they go on to talk about how awesome that Kaarel is, but unfortunately maybe Transferwise is not the best place for them. Do you think you would have been a half-decent employee at Transferwise?
I mean, yeah, I don't know whether they've let me to have so much freedom that I wanted to have at this point. But yeah, we've been talking about it a lot, and with Martin is a very good friend of mine, and yeah, we've been talking about those early days, how it all started, and they're part of the story, how I ended up in this, and then I really wanted to see how it will become at the end, but yeah, I mean, at that time maybe I felt a bit bad. But if I'm now thinking about it, I'd like to get some kind of subscription service to send them flowers for this decision.
Yeah, I don't think that the purpose of showing this definitely isn't to say that there's any bad blood there. I mean, if I understand, then Tavet is an investor in Veriff, yeah?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So they still like Kaarel, it's okay.
Also, Martin Sock invested in Veriff. There's like many people from Transferwise, and they also know how big of a problem it is in general, and yeah, together with them we moved forward. And when we were talking about those things, actually this email doesn't represent it in general, because
I mean, they say you're a great guy.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, in a way, when we went deep into this problem, we noticed that you can bring more value when this service is independent, so you can see the fraud vectors coming in from different verticals, and this is quite expensive thing to have it only in-house. So it isn't only about the technology, and you really have to have a separate company who's specialized in it.
Why do you think for you identity verification became kind of your thing? I think that the thing about especially the CEO of a lot of startups is that they're really great at what they do, and they have the option of many different verticals. I'm sure you've had other opportunities. You've had kind of companies in the past and student companies and whatnot. So why was identity verification the one that for you, you're like, this is my thing. I guess I have to go forward with this.
I think at the time it was. I really noticed how big of a problem and unsolved issue it is still in 2015, and as I said, like in Estonia, we Estonians are so like famous for our e-identity, and in many other countries it doesn't exist, and we still see, if you go further, our e-identity was like our ID card is just one step of going over to biometrics. It's a lot easier to take somebody's ID card than face and fingers, and you really have to focus on biometrics, and the idea of taking more in-depth look into it was the thing that fascinated me.
Mm-hmm. Who were your first customers? Who were the people who you were like, okay, there's a way to monetize this solution? Or
yeah, actually, one of our early investors in bank was one of the first customers. Together with them, we launched Hansapost, who is one of the biggest e-commerce companies in the Baltics. Then we went further with LHV, Uber, and many others.
And what did it take then? When you're kind of a young guy, I mean, you're 23 years old. When did the initial paid customers came in? You must have been 20, 21?
Yes. I mean, like at the beginning, it was quite easy. Not easy, sorry.
Okay.
If you're like a young guy just going to knock on the bank store and say like, I have a solution for your biggest concern in the banking and the risk while onboarding people, and outsourcing their customer information to one startup. So it was quite hard to say that security and everything is covered, and even though we have different competing banks using our service, and all the customer data and everything, this was quite a hassle at the beginning, but at one point it just started to go.
Okay. So what changed from knocking on banks' doors to the point where it kind of was taking off? What was that? What it just naturally evolved into to crushing Ycombinator, or?
And no, I mean, it was just solving one real problem, and if we started in the banking sector here in Estonia, then you really understand that the banking profits comes from the user base. One of the some big Swedish banks have the most of the users in Estonia, and thanks to the user base, they can have quite a high interest rate, and they do a lot of profit on it. And also the smaller players and banks that have to start from the beginning, they can't compete with those big banks in the early days, so they really have to find ways how to be there where their customers are. And Veriff was something that enabled them to do it, and you were able to get the market prices more reasonable. And this was like in the early days what excited us. But then you understood that identity drives value exchange online. If there's some kind of value exchange, you always have to know who are the ones at the both ends, and the market is bigger, a lot bigger than banking.
So it sounds like the secret sauce to Veriff's success was having an awesome product.
I truly hope. I see like the product isn't nearly ready yet. There's so many things to evolve, and there's every day you find some new correlations and ways how to make the service more secure. And yeah, everybody are so passionate about this product, and I think this is what is the most important.
One story you told me that stood out in particular was the kind of first developer who took on the challenge, and you spoke about how he had been a junior developer, and then you kind of inspired in him some sort of action.
Yeah. I mean, like one of our first founding engineers, Ilya Abtsauri, who is one crazy Georgian guy who was like doing professional sports in Georgia and played in the national teams of different, like from golf to even the tennis, I think. He was such a talented guy. And in the early days, we outsourced our service from one of the best developers in Estonia. And when we just had some ideas, we should do it a bit differently than all the others. Like senior engineers told us, like Kaarel, that's everything great, but it can't be done. There are some limitations in it. And Ilya was the crazy guy who just stayed at the office 3 days basically and took on this challenge and delivered.
How did you find him?
I mean, there was many things. It was so hard to find the right guys. There wasn't so many. I started with, in the beginnings, with job ads. Then we did some crazy video, I think, at Facebook, where I was basically playing ping pong with against the wall because I was only one there, and yeah, there was like so many things, and it didn't work out. Then I started to look after some forums and posted different things. Maybe there's somebody who can go through the system and give some advice, and some who did got an offer.
And then Ilya came out of the woods.
I mean, yeah, Ilya actually was, he was at the end, he ended up like in Tartu already. He was connected to Estonia at the time and did his master's here, and yeah, we found a great match, and he was like one of the founding engineers.
The culture has evolved a lot through then, and I wanna get to that eventually, because I know one thing in particular that you're kind of proud of is how the culture has become at Veriff, I think. You're a great guy, Kaarel, but nobody's perfect. And if I understand correctly, it hasn't necessarily been a smooth road the whole way. And in particular, you applied for Ycombinator, and we actually have the email from Ycombinator as well. Is it okay we show this one? What do you think?
Yeah, I think, but at the beginning I should say how we ended up at Ycombinator and why we applied for it in the first place.
Yeah, in the first application, the first kind of attempt.
I mean, yeah, it was the time when Gustav Alstromer was here in Estonia, and on the second floor I had one meeting with him, and then I showed him the product that we are having, and he asked, "So guys, where your customers mainly are located?" I said, like, we were very proud that we first took Estonia, then we went to Latvia, and then we went like scaling like international company. Then he was like, "Guys, it's like I worked at Airbnb. You created an awesome service. Why the hell you're still stuck in here? And you definitely have to apply for YC, and we can see where we can get." And then I shared all the things, and he asked different questions, and there were some issues, but yeah, at the end we ended up applying for YC, and we got to an interview.
Mm-hmm. So you got to an interview.
Yeah.
You came home. And that's when you get the email, I think, sometime after this.
I think, no, we already got the email on the same day after the interview.
Ah, they're quick.
Yeah, they're quite quick, indeed.
Okay.
And And I mean, like this email and everything, it was great. I mean, like this conversation with them was funny because we have this. During the interview, we wanted to demo our service, and while demoing our service, there's also an option for the video call. And then we were very proud that one of our verification specialists, who was basically there doing the video call, we presented her as the officially first non-founder taking a part of YC's interview. and interview went great, but it ended up as that.
So, for those who can't see the email, it says, Kaarel, no, you're a great guy. No. So, it says, unfortunately, we've decided not to accept Veriff into the program and fund Veriff. We're excited, but there's an issue in the cap table. And at the time, maybe you didn't have the strong co-founding team that you have now. We think it takes a long time to build a company. You need founders and investors. It's a long-term vision type thing. And that we think you should try again later. Can you talk a little bit about, because I think this is an important note for new founders, can you talk a little bit about the issues with the cap table and kind of what went on? Did you make a mistake?
No, of course, man. I mean, who does no mistakes? No one.
Exactly.
I think, in the early days, I was really focused on getting this product done. And this was my main goal. And when I get the prototype first part done, I really know that for the go-to-market, I really have to have I have to have some funding at the beginning to get it to the point where we can call it as MVP and can be given out to banks who are the hardest customers to have in the early days. I got the funding in a week or two, and everything happened quite fast. And
can you say how much your initial round was?
Initial round was 160,000 euros. And
can you say how much of the company you had to sell to get that?
I think I can. And I think I can. And
it's a long time ago now.
It was a long time. It was a long trip.
Many years.
I was holding 5% of my own company for this investment. And
so that means that you said 160, sorry?
160,000.
So 160,000 euros in exchange for 95% of Veriff.
I mean, there were many different, quite complex things which ended up as following. But I think it wasn't so big of an issue for me at this stage. It was just for me, I have some funds. I can go after a team. I can really find people better than me to make this product happen. And everything started and it went well until everything went quite well. So other investors came up and said, like, Kaarel, we definitely want to invest in Veriff, but what the hell? It's like...
So it all went well until it didn't. And and what that meant in the end was that there was a lot of issues for you. You couldn't get into YC, supposedly.
I mean, it's before the meeting with YC, I was very proud of the solution, how we ended up already with the ownership of the company and how it was changed. And it was a time when Gustav was here. He said, like, Kaarel, there's an issue with your cap table. I was like, now I'm so proud of it actually already, because I fought for it for 8 months to get to this level where we were already holding like half of the company was in our hands.
So something changed in between?
It was already something changed in between. Okay. But then we went to, Gustav already told that, Kaarel, this is half-made solution. And it was a month after we ended up at YC interview. And his message was, Kaarel, you still haven't dealt with it yet. I was like, those bones wasn't like grown together yet, so I have to rip them apart.
So we started out at, you sold most of the company with some terms, conditions, but in the end you didn't own the company, the cap table was crazy.
Yeah.
And then you went to YC and they said your cap table's crazy. And then you went out and you fixed it, kind of, and then you owned 50% approximately.
It was the time when we already owned 50%, but
Okay.
it wasn't good enough for in terms of the cap table
Okay.
to go further. And like the company we are building, we're not building it for investors. We are doing it for ourselves. And yeah, when you got this declinal message, I already started to search whether there's ways to get there. I was happy that our product wasn't the one that failed. Our product and everything was great, and everything worked out fine. Our team is amazing. And then I really noticed that, okay, there's this issue left, and it ended up as like talking with some investors. Some said like, Kaarel, you shouldn't go there because everything is going quite well, Veriff is growing. Until actually I ended up sitting together with Ragnar, who said like, Kaarel, Veriff is so close there. And as we understood before as well, there's no things that can't be fixed. We started to fix it. We wanted to get the company back at this stage, and yeah, it worked out fine. The ones who believed in our vision, with them, we are in this long-term relationship.
What did it take to get to a point where you could go to YC? What was the process like, or what? Because I know that it was an adventure, and
yeah, definitely. There's like, as you know, as a startup founder, every single day you're focused on like raising funds. You're not building the company. Every single day you're focused on investor relations and making some changes there. You're still not building the company, and I think it was quite a hell of a ride. And at the end we found a solution that worked out fine for every single party. And yeah, I was thinking on my own as well, okay, I was like happy, like around a year ago I bought one apartment in Christina, and I thought that this is gonna be the biggest loan that I'm gonna have in my life. Man, I was wrong.
you didn't know you would sit here one day.
And yeah, then we took a huge loan to buy out some investors, and we got to YC. It was freaking best decision, and it was totally
Good job,
worth it.
Ragnar.
Yeah, definitely. Ragnar was basically the key one who said, Kaarel, you have to have balls.
Yeah.
And
there's your advice.
yeah, and this is how it went further.
So in order to avoid this for the next Kaarel Kotkas that comes up and builds the next big thing, what is something that you wish you had have kept in mind then when going through the process of raising your first funds, which feels really awesome because it kind of validates that you're a real company maybe, or it makes you feel like, yes, we can move forward. But what do you kind of have to, what would you tell old Kaarel? Or young?
Yeah, I think there's like, I think if I now look back, every single step that we took was super important for us to grow. It was meant for us to go every single thing as we've gone through. And yeah, I mean, actually, yeah, even thinking a bit like differently now is how this is just so important to go through all those things. And actually you will grow quite strong as a company. And to get those fixes done, it isn't an easy time. It's like it takes some risk. I gave in my application of resignation that I'm leaving the company. It was the last year where all the news were talking about Veriff, and I was like just gave in my application of resignation that I'm leaving the company. It was quite a hard time for me. I was crying a lot until I was dry, basically. It was just, you're just so passionate about getting those things done. And at the end, it was just every single thing that we did to get those things together, it was thought through. And our amazing team, like, totally believed in our mission to get through those things, and it made us even stronger, even though there was the time, I think the last June, when at the end of the June, we had €200 on our bank account. We knew that there's going to be the payday. There's like quite a lot of people already, and we are never letting our people down. And we thought, what we can do, and we talked with our customers who paid some monthly minimum commitments in advance. So it gave us very strong feeling that everybody are appreciating the service that we are building and providing to them. And yeah, at the end it worked out fine. And it's funny to think it was just a year ago.
So you had no money, and so you called your customers and you said,
I mean,
help.
like, guys, there's like, I was just asking if there's any way if we could just have some payments in advance. And when we were going through those things, they said, like, guys, yeah, hopefully it helps. We have more liquidity as you do at this point.
And so they liked you guys, and they liked the product enough that they were actually willing to pay in advance in order for you to make payroll. Maybe they didn't know that last part, but that was the idea.
Yeah, it helped us because it was basically asking for some liquidity for some bigger investment that we wanted to do, which ended up as a payday for our people, not letting them down. But yeah, it was funny times in June, like last year, when I was together with Janer in Amsterdam, and we were a part of this Money 2020 event, which is one of the most expensive fintech conferences in the world. And we were like both thinking, oh, Janer, like, thanks that it worked out together with the like Enterprise Estonia that we got here, because basically the ticket to join the event was like €900, and we were both thinking, like, it's quite a big money, like, so it's like our company can't afford it, but we were like fighting very hard. We got like quite many investor contacts, and until the very end. And I mean, yeah, but it helped us to be very lean, and together with other customers, we ended up as profitable and not so much money needed. Yeah.
You don't need to ask for kind of advance payments anymore. Yeah. So then you turned it around, you hacked it together with the help of the local ecosystem and your customers, and everything starts going well, and you say, cool, we're going to YC. YC says yes.
Yeah, I was like, when we were talking, when we said like, guys, we fixed it. And then, yeah, it was like, you crazy Estonians, you never give up. Take a plane next week. See you in San Francisco.
Nice.
And yeah, it wasn't fixed at that time, but we said it is. We finalized the deal already while being in San Francisco. It was like, but it worked out. Apply some pressure. It's like
go big or go home. We're here. We bought the plane ticket. You have to take it.
Man, at that time everything was great. I mean, you're just at your timeline. You can't imagine how many things can be done within a day. Yeah. We were polling on the budget last summer, but yeah, then month after month you have new customers and everything is going great. So it's like, and this was already in the beginning of this year, so it's like 6 months here, man.
Yeah. What's the value in going to YC and US for Veriff?
We used YC as a great springboard to enter US market. We already noticed at YC that there's so many YC companies that could already benefit from our service. And yeah, it's together with YC, you have already a sign of quality that there's a huge competition. They stick to the rule that they're taking only 1% of applicants, and yeah, I was while going there together with YC, it was just setting very strong goals, and you really notice that how big the market opportunity is, and you really don't have to rely and focus only on the local banking customers. Even though it was quite good to say like, we work together with Uber. They had no idea that it was like Uber Estonia, but it was still a reference. And then you go after one door after another, and yeah, it was just. It started to work out. It was best advice you can get. You really know there's always the right people, and if you notice that you have the market fit, that you just have to rely on taking more people to join your team, mostly customer support and sales to handle it all, and yeah, it I don't know whether it changed the game, but it definitely accelerated in the right direction for sure.
Yeah, for me it seems like the path to getting to YC was a bumpy road, and there was ups and downs, and you had this amazing product and people love it, but a lot of stuff kind of goes up and down, and then you get to YC and stuff kind of starts to roll. You've solved some problems and things are going. At that point, something which actually hasn't been spoken about as much as I thought, so this is like an exclusive announcement, Veriff was actually offered acquisition.
Yes, I mean, like, while talking with many big customers, they are mostly like, oh, great, guys, you have such a great product. Then I was like, yay, we can have you already as our customers, we want to buy you. And then I'm like, no. And we really were selling the idea of how we could really provide them more value while being independent. And we have our own independent plan how to make it all happen. And it was basically at the end of the demo day, where, like at the end of the YC, we were talking with different investors. We already raised the first funds. And there were some people that we just wanted to have on board, and at that time we were just a bit tricked into those discussions, because they said as well, like, guys, there's like this kind of opportunity where you have a great timing, but and you have the opportunity to raise as much as you'd like to. You're in a unique position, but to nail the timing, only big money won't solve it. You really have to think how you can set up the operations, how you can have security, legal, and all the teams to onboard those big customers who are basically where the volumes are like 15% of Estonian nation a day. And there's like, you really have to scale up the operations. But then we said, like, okay, let's see. We are giving... There's only like strict deadline, 1.5 weeks. We just get to know each other. If those discussions, in those discussions we mostly would like to see, maybe we can have them basically as our customers, to have bigger opportunity to work together with them. And there was like very awesome company at the end. But when they shared their story and the people were great and everything.
Can you say who it was?
No.
We
just share quite a similar approach of integration together with them, and it was just a time when I really got to meet great people. But every single time when we were talking and seeing, like, and they shared also their plans, how Veriff can grow as a part of their company, and how fast we could take like up to 200,000 customers in a year. And at that point we were thinking, we had 28 customers, we are profitable, why the hell we shouldn't get those on our own? And yeah, the offer was it was a life-changing offer. In a way it was a very gentle offer, but then you just noticed again, this game isn't about money. It's about trying those things out, and I couldn't forgive myself just saying like, this is like exit at the time when you have the great momentum going on, you just really see you're just in the beginning. You take it as a compliment that it's valued so high already at this point, and so we can proceed and go further on our own independently. And this just been the best decisions we've taken.
So you won't tell me who it is. Can you tell me what the offer was? It seems kind of obscure.
According to the NDA, I can't disclose it.
Can you say like it was more than this? More than like 77 euros? Less than 79?
I mean, yeah. When I was talking with one of our investors, one of my investors told me, Kaarel, just it's your choice. If you're selling the company, you can buy a fucking Hiiumaa if you'd like to. And I said, like, no, I'm not going after my home island. And I said, like, yeah, we had different discussions. Some of them said, like, it's a great amount, and but we really thought that yeah, this game isn't about money. It's like
I need a second. So you turn. So somebody offered you Hiiumaa.
No. I mean,
not exactly.
He took it as an example. Because it's just if it's around like the numbers game, it's it was a huge offer, and we turned it down.
Why?
Because we truly see that we were thinking like, okay, it's great, everything, how they ended up as there, and the market is huge, and everything is going great, and yeah, the need for those services is huge. There's millions of enterprise customers in need for this service, which just have 48 customers at the moment. There's quite many to go, and we truly believe that we'd like to build our own vision and deliver it.
So you said at the time of the acquisition offer, the exit offer, you had 26, 28 customers. They offered you 200,000 customers a year, and they said they could kind of help.
I mean, like, yeah, they said there's,
which is a slight increase.
Yeah.
And then they also offered you a significant amount of money, and you still said no. And
yes,
that's, I think, about long-term vision. And
yeah, I think this was another thing which was good for our company, to show like everybody as well that we went through very hard times in the last summer. We ended up just months after, like, it all skyrocketed, and when we said no, this added another security layer to our company and our team cultures, and we just thought and sat down, and we were thinking like, let's gain the trust of the internet on our own, and let's transform Veriff into a verb, so we can really see that there's a need for the services. There's everything. As we went through all the corner cases and everything, we also thought that the economic situation is too good at the moment. It will collapse in 2 years, or there will be some kind of a crisis. So there's another possibility for us to grow. So the old economy really understood that old things didn't work out. So you really have to move yourself online, and you have to have online verification. And there's so many plans and thoughts that we have in front of us. And yeah, our brand is just to gain the trust of the internet, and we are on our way there.
That's it's like one of those one-liners. You spend so much time trying to do a one-liner, but gain the trust of the internet is something you never get. It's so good. You said that this going through process of the downside and then the upside and saying, no, we can do even better than this, really built the culture. For you, what does that mean, or what has changed at Veriff since going through all this, and how has the team come together?
Yeah, I think it was really the great times. While at YC as well, I started as a solo founder. I started to look for people to join our team, and also you see that YC also told so many great things that you really can't. You have to have a very strong founding team, and if you ask them who are the founders, then it's like co-founders are the ones with whom you can talk about everything. And when we got the company back, and we really saw like our people who've been working hard already, like it's just reshaping the company, and how it was in the early days, and just what we were talking about.
The culture.
Culture. Oh yeah, and
Just so much.
I mean, there's so many things you can't describe. It's like
the company culture started with you playing ping pong alone and filming it to recruit people.
I mean, yeah, maybe we can find this. It's still in Facebook or like Veriff page. Really, it was a part that I was together with some of my friends at the office. I said, guys, we have to have a Steadicam. So there was like those office chairs with those wheels. One guy was holding their iPhone there, another one was pushing this wheelchair. So it was like a Steadicam. Did you notice this effect? Yeah.
I thought that's high quality production.
Yeah, it was. It worked. I hope so. Yeah, we're now here, so
it seems like it worked.